David Magy is a founder of Abel and Magy, Underberg and Associates, one of the top executive recruiting firms in the country. He'll be our keynote speaker at our monthly meeting on March 26th at the Toro Company and offered to give Eagle Group an exclusive preview of his presentation. Welcome to Eagle Group again, David.
Truly honored to be here, Renee. Thank you guys for having me here. I will share my presentation in a moment. Actually, we'll just do it now just to make sure everything works. We always like that, although we did do a test before. So hopefully you are seeing what is a teaser for March 26th. I did rename the presentation for tonight to call it Unforced Errors, and I'll explain that in just a moment. Anyway, truly honored to be here. My background is all matching people and jobs. That's all I've ever done. I worked in corporate life with Farm Credit Services, Honeywell, and the Pillsbury Company, left large corporations, and went into the outplacement or career transition space. We were basically an organization that helped people in transition. And I will come back to that role in just a moment. And then sold that company and opened up what is called a retained executive search firm. We work with organizations that are looking to find directors, vice presidents, and C-suite people for varying positions. We're hired on an exclusive basis to do that. And truly, all I've ever done is match people and jobs. I know this is supposed to be a 10 to 15-minute overview in preparation for the 26th, so I am going to go through things pretty quickly. It's not the full presentation, obviously, and I will hang out for questions at the end. Why did I title this Unforced Errors? I am not a sports person. In fact, I have not watched a full sports game in multiple decades. My wife and I record the Super Bowl and fast forward the game to catch the commercials. We just are not sports fans, never have been. However, as I understand the term unforced errors, the goal is to reduce them, to not have an error that you yourself cause that does some sort of harm. And the theme that, as I understand it, sports teams use is the importance of practicing, and in this case, giving you some knowledge. Now, the reason I said I was going to come back to a job I had many years ago, when I owned this company called Career Dynamics, I was one of 3 owners, and we did work with people who were in transition. I was told by the consultants I work with that I had what they termed at the time was a superpower. And my superpower was meeting with people and shortening their job search time. And I did that by, in many ways, diagnosing what people were doing in their job search and getting rid of some of the things they were doing that I have now termed unforced errors. So we're going to talk about a few different categories and quickly tonight. We're going to talk about that introduction you always need to make, and will be later. We're going to talk about showing up physically on the phone, on computer, on Zoom, etc. We're going to talk about the written word, resumes and LinkedIn. We're going to talk about email. This is a separate category. Hit social media, and truly be done in under 15 minutes. So that will be a record. The theme of everything I'm going to talk about is planning and practicing. A couple weeks ago, I went to an educational banquet with 1,000 people in attendance. And other than the executive director and a couple of the board members, I knew no one in attendance. And while I really wanted the information, I wanted to be there to better understand this organization, I had to pre-think about what I wanted to do when I got there. And I have to tell you, I had more fun not knowing people than I've ever had at any networking event. I adopted a positive attitude. And just to tell you what I did, I got there for the networking part before the banquet. I got there approximately an hour early. And there at the time were maybe 50 to 100 people there of the 1,000 that were going to be in attendance. I bought a glass of wine as a prop. And I went to the first table I saw where I knew nobody, set the wine down very dramatically, and said, "Hi, I'm David Magy. I don't know anybody here. Why are you here?" And I learned all sorts of things about this organization, what drew them to it. And I did that at 4 different tables, about 10 to 15 minutes per table, and it was just so much fun. I never thought I would have that much fun not knowing people. Now, I also had to plan my self-introduction, and planning and practicing are important. When I ask someone to tell me about themselves, their first word should not be and that is a common first word. So please practice, practice, practice. And you can do that with a tool that we carry called a phone, but it also functions as a camera and a video camera. Small talk. It's going to snow tonight. No one cares. We live in Minnesota. If it didn't snow, that might be newsworthy. Politics will divide the room. The best way to prepare for small talk is actually to look in the last sections of any online newspaper and see what the community section or the more entertainment sections are talking about. And if you really want to go on the edge, Google News of the Weird. It's actually a website that is now owned by Shepherd Express, and you will get some really fun things to talk about. However, keep in mind that the best conversationalists are people that talk less and listen more. And by the way, remember eye contact and a smile. And when you're on Zoom, eye contact is the camera lens, not the screen. Whoop, wrong direction. There we go. There are all sorts of studies that talk about how we're judged. And basically, they all come down to similar statistics. In the first 5 to 10 minutes of any introduction, we are judged 60% by how we look, 33% based on how we sound, and shockingly, only 7% based on content. Now, you'll never get a second chance to make a first impression, so I want you to think about what I am seeing right now as I look at you. What I see is your background. And when we get together on the 26th, I will actually talk to you about a study that rates people's backgrounds, whether you use artificial, blurred, or what is literally behind you. Most of us are, well, we're all on Zoom tonight. I didn't say most of us, although there's some people at the VFW. So hopefully, do they get to hear this or see this? I don't know.
No,
Renee?
no, we
They-
don't simulcast.
Well, they'll see it hopefully on YouTube.
Yep, they can view it later.
You have no idea what I am wearing from here down. And that's an interesting issue. I'm happen to be in a sport coat, dress shirt, and jeans because no one cares about me from here down. They only care from here up. Be careful, though, when you are on Zoom, because if you're in a meeting and you need to go get something, people will see what you are wearing. What do you hear? I make sure that I have 3 different microphones and choose the one that's going to behave the best. I also want you to think about how we hear you. And if you are talking on a phone, we don't hear you in the same manner as if you are talking through a good hands-free headset. Why is that? We are an expressive group of people as just a culture, and we want to make sure that we can talk with our hands. And if you're tethered to a phone, even if it's a cellular phone, no one uses a landline anymore, but if you're tethered to a cellular phone, you do not sound the same way. There are books and books and books written about resume writing. You can go online, get formats, multiple different options, and do all sorts of things. What is the key at the end of the day? The key is for the reader to easily find the information you want them to find. Now, the newest trend with resumes seems to be with people using columns, and the education section is to the left and the experience section is to the right, and you've got different lines and different fonts. In all honesty, most applicant tracking systems have difficulty finding the information. Humans don't know where to look either, I'm not going to lie. However, what I really want to focus on for the couple of seconds tonight I'm on this slide is we need to easily find your name, your phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn URL location. Now, that may sound pretty simple. However, in the last week, I have received 2 resumes where there was no email address. So when you attach a resume to your email, the resume is actually stored separately. The email address will not come with your resume, which means we don't know how to get to you. That's a problem. We also have a lot of people who think it's fun to use the header and footer sections of a resume. Do not put your information in the header or the footer. Just put it on top of the main section. It is the easiest to find. It is always visible, and no one has to click on header and footer to be able to find who you are. Make sure your LinkedIn URL does indeed work. I was chatting with someone who had a very, very common first and last name. We'll call this person Mark Smith. That is not his name, but basically that was it. Mark had linked himself to the wrong Mark Smith. In our conversation, I pointed that out to him. He probably didn't think it was as funny as I did, but it's nonetheless one of the things that you want to make sure you do carefully and properly, so do test it out. On the bottom left of this slide, there are 2 websites that worked as of Friday last week. If you want to see how your resume shows up on different websites, applicant tracking systems, etc., use those 2 websites. Each year, LinkedIn comes up with a list of 10 overused resume phrases. I'll be honest with you completely. I have no idea what year this list is from. Couldn't tell you. Could be last year, could be a few years ago. It doesn't matter. All these words are fine, even though they were on the LinkedIn list of overused resume phrases. So what makes them overused or problematic? It's where you don't have any examples or an ability to give examples when you use these words. So many resumes that I receive talk about someone who is results oriented. Yet when I read the resume, there is not one result listed. It's a list of responsibilities. And most people, when they look at resumes, at least all of my clients, want to see a resume that has accomplishments, that has results. So if you put under your skill set or executive summary at the top of your resume that you are a results-oriented person, and then you have no results to back it up, that is indeed a problem. If you list entrepreneurial and you spent your entire life at Cargill, for example, and Cargill is a marvelous employer. They are the largest, to my knowledge, private employer in the US, and many people say on the planet, although I think there's one in China that's bigger. Regardless, if you put that you are an entrepreneurial person and have been in a staff function at Cargill for most of your career, those 2 things do not coexist. So please, the words are not the problem. It's the inability to back them up. Spoken in the positive, if you say you're results oriented and you've got some great things that you have accomplished, if you are entrepreneurial and you've actually helped try new things and bring about new things within your organization, you are a rock star. Emails. I get approximately 160 emails a day. I would lie to you if I told you I read them all. However, the ones that I read effectively use the subject line as a way to tell their story. So because I get so many emails a day, I do not use a preview pane. So I have no idea what the person is saying in their email. All I know is the email address, the time that it came in, and the subject line, and if there's an attachment or not. If you were to email me tonight and say attended the teaser section or session for Eagle Group, you'd get my attention. If in the subject line you simply say introduction or resume, my computer will actually put it in spam automatically. So please use the subject line. The other tips, and I'll give more when I'm with you on the 26th. My name is David. Referring to me as Dave is not a way to make me a friend. And when I started this company, I had a couple of different business partners, one whose name is Mary Ablin. She retired a long time ago, wonderful person. And Ken Ablin is still involved with the company. Haven't talked to him since earlier today. But I still get emails to my email address, which starts with the name David, but that are addressed to Mary. So that's another way of not really becoming my friend too quickly. Okay. The last thing I want to get into tonight is social media. I'm sure all of you have a LinkedIn profile, and many of you have a Facebook profile. I'm sure a number of you even have a Twitter profile. That said, this goes back to impression management. Even though you think you are private messaging someone or only speaking to your particular group, you need to assume that anything you put on social media, be it LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc., is going to be seen by the entire world. Now, there are some famous cases, for example, Congressman, or more correctly, ex-Congressman Anthony Weiner, who thought he was doing a private tweet. You have all sorts of examples, some way more recent than that, that talk about the dialogue. But let me explain to you why it is open to the public. So I post something just to my LinkedIn group, and a friend of mine on LinkedIn, someone I'm connected to, makes a comment on it. Their comment is then public to everybody they know, and someone can see it that way. Interestingly, same thing with Facebook. So all I'm going to tell you is simply be careful. The rule I try to follow is I don't post anything that my mother wouldn't have been proud of. May she rest in peace. Okay. The other thing I will tell you from a social media standpoint, I will encourage you to Google yourself. And I will tell you that because we will. At some point, I will put your name in Google, even if you have a common first and last name. We will find you and we will know what the, what is out there on you. So please Google yourself so that you can get ahead of any issues that might exist and go long and deep, go 3-4 pages into the search results. And by the way, try and do it from a computer that doesn't know you. If you do it from your own computer, you'll get a set of results that really track all of your previous results and in the order that you will like to see them. If you can go to a friend's computer that you're not connected to and Google yourself, you will get a much more realistic preview of what the world sees. And with that, I hope you all attend live on the 26th. It'll be great to meet you in person. And I will hang out for questions. And I'll answer anything you want. Don't all ask at once.
Floor is open, people. Christian, you always
Yes.
have great questions.
Oh, I don't know if these are great questions, but David, thank you very much for your presentation. I really do appreciate it. I learned a couple of things. I had a question. You mentioned PeopleBox AI and Workable Recruiting. Would they give you an impression of your LinkedIn profile, some sort of rating on how it looks or anything, or is that
In
just for resume?
honesty, I do not know. I do not know
Okay.
the answer to that. That's a great question. These I know work specifically so you can download your resume and it'll look at your resume. I do not know what it does for your LinkedIn profile. That's
Okay.
a great
Well,
question. I'm going to have to do some research on that.
I might do that. That might be
Oh,
fun.
we can both do that.
Okay.
All right.
Second question, then I'll open up to everybody else. You mentioned Googling yourself, which I've heard before and I've done, and I have probably not a whole bunch of presence, except for LinkedIn, but good point on not doing it on your own computer. Do you know if, this is the question, if you open up an incognito window or one of those windows that don't accept or keep any cookies, is that the same as going to another computer type of thing?
Yes, I understand it. And, my idea of technology is I actually have a crank phone hanging in my office to that side.
I
So
see it.
I'm probably not the guy that you want to be asking technology questions to. And I am actually sitting at a roll top desk with a 1903 typewriter on top of it. So I'm the wrong guy. However,
Yes, but do you use the typewriter?
actually, it does work. I had it completely refurbished.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regardless, to my knowledge, yes, that would do the same thing. However, I've never done a test to check it out. I will usually use a computer of a friend to Google myself. However, I do use my own computer monthly, and this is being recorded, to Google my wife, to Google my kids, to Google each of their spouses as well, just to see what might be out there. Now, my youngest is 36, and I think he was a teenager the last time I had to say, you don't want that out there.
Not a bad way to go. Thank you very much. I'll leave it
Sure
up to the
thing.
rest of the group.
Thank you for your questions, Christian. And I have to do research now, so there we go.
There's homework.
We'll take it.
I have a comment I'd like to add to David's presentation. So so this goes with you were talking about formats, and columns and things off to the side on the left side, things off to the side on the right side. I just found out something fairly recently. And I found out that if you're using a template for a resume, no matter where you got it from, if your template has a text box on it, you need to take that text box off, because if the company that you're applying for a job at, if they use an ATS, and most medium or large size companies do, the ATS is not going to be able to read that information that's in the text box. It'll basically say, I couldn't find it. I didn't find it. And that could hurt you a lot when you're in job search. So I don't know if you knew that, David, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
It's interesting. I did not know that specifically, but I am not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
ATS systems do their best work on a traditional resume without lines across, with a very boring font,
Mm-hmm.
and font sizes no larger than 14 and no smaller than 9.
Ooh, 9, huh? That's pretty small.
It is.
Yeah.
However, anything smaller sometimes does not get captured, and anything bigger, oftentimes a person's name does not get captured either.
Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that.
The ATS system attached to our candidate database
Mm-hmm.
will do up to 16, but people that use something bigger or something fancy, we will download their resume and not have their name.
Oh, wow.
That's a problem.
So I know that there's like many different brands when it comes to ATS. And maybe you can kind of confirm what I've read, or I don't know. I'm just gonna tell you. Um, so what I've read is that, what was I gonna say? Oh gosh. Oh, so what I've read is that the HR department, who was using the software to, scan the resumes and compare it to the job posting, they can actually set the parameters. They can basically tell the ATS software, look for this, look for that. And especially when, like, you have a word, like I was just talking to a veteran just today about this, and so he said, should I spell Internal Revenue Service out? Should I spell it out, or should I use an acronym? And I just told him that basically, you know, the first time you spell out a word or more than one word, spell the whole thing out. If there's an acronym for that word, spell it out the first time, put the acronym in parentheses next to the word. And that's what I read, that the HR department, they're not IT people. They cannot code. They can't program anything, but they can tell the piece of software what to look for. Have you found that to be true?
Most ATS systems have what I loosely term an equivalency, because there are so many ways of referring to, and we'll just pick on an academic institution. So University of Minnesota can be U of M, U of MN,
Mm-hmm.
University of MN. I mean, there are just so many ways
Right.
to put it. So most ATS systems actually that are well established have an equivalency. So if you put it in one way, it'll find it.
Okay, good.
You should be okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Stan, what's your question?
ATS systems, I've been told ATS systems are kind of a Microsoft product, and that maybe you'd be better off using a doc file than a PDF. Is that something that you've heard of?
What I will tell you is that there are certain files that my ATS will not read at all. And it depends on the version of the PDF we get, whether it is actually scannable or not. I would go to one of those two websites that I referenced on the resume page on the slide and try a PDF version and see if it goes in. See if
Okay.
it's readable. You will learn more that way. And I have no idea if Microsoft is controlling this world or not.
Well, the other question I have is a LinkedIn question. I have been told by various people that know LinkedIn much better than I do. Well, I was told initially I had 2 LinkedIn accounts. And that's because over the years I started something and then I forgot. I was working for a while, then I forgot, then I started another one. And there is a technique where you can get them together, merge them together. But I had to actually have LinkedIn do it for me. I had to email them my request, which one I wanted to be submitted, or which one I wanted to be merged into the other one type thing. And I wondered if you've seen that sort of problem happen before.
I have heard of it happening multiple times, and in every case, someone has had to directly contact LinkedIn to get it solved. I don't know anybody that has been able to merge two themselves. Now, I'm sure, was it you, Renee, or you, Katie, that referred to a LinkedIn expert earlier today? That person may know. That is above my pay grade, and all the people that I know have just gone to LinkedIn and say, please help me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You work for clients. We talk a lot on line here about tailoring your resume for specific companies and looking at their job posting and things like that. If I were to send you my resume, it would be a general resume, is that right? I'm assuming you explore that and
It would be, Brad, that's a great question. And actually, it's what I will call an onion question because there's so many different layers to it. Yes, if you send me a resume, I want it to be the one you most commonly send. In this town, the Twin Cities, and I'm from here, we are an unusual job market in that if you lived in any other large city, about 50% likelihood your next job is going to come through your network. In the Twin Cities, it's much higher. It's 70 to 80%. And the reason for that is most people don't move. They sort of come here, they freeze to the ground, they stay, they rotate different employers. Part of the deal. Okay. Based on that, the more time you spend personalizing your resume is time you don't spend pursuing actively your key networking connections. I don't think there's a good return on investment of spending what I've heard up to hours, plural, personalizing a resume to apply for one job, especially if you found it online, because an online job you have a much lower likelihood of getting than you do through your own networking efforts. So I'll stop the answer there. But yes, if you send me a resume, it should be the most common one that you send. And in all honesty, I don't recommend having more than a couple versions of a resume.
I don't know who's moderating. I think I'm next. Okay, so now I got another question for you. So as a professional recruiter, job placement type person, I have started keeping the two versions of the resume. One that I submit for the ATS system. It takes off all formatting. It's got everything the same font, the same size. It's very divided into sections so that it can pick out the summary and the different jobs and the dates. It's very, very boring. And also, because I take off all the formatting, tends to extend itself into about 3 pages, but I figure an ATS system doesn't care. When I apply, I will use that. I'll upload that. I'll let it fill out all the fields in the application form online. And it does a pretty good job at that. But then I'll take it out and I'll replace it with a PDF I'm not sorry, a Word version, for instance, of the one that does have the formatting. Do you appreciate that? Like if somebody's sending you their resume to send you both copies so that you can upload it and then take a look at the nice one, or do you care?
No, in all honesty, I want the one that a human's going to read. And now, Christian, I need to explain why. First of all, I look at it before I put it in our ATS system. So I don't want the ATS version. Second of all of our clients, and I mean all of our clients, are small to medium-sized organizations, be they for-profit businesses, be they nonprofits, be they academic institutions. We only work with small to medium-sized companies. When I present a candidate for a position we've been retained to fill, I present the resume that they are going to look at live. They don't put it in their ATS system. So all I want is the human version.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great question. Now, that may be a different answer if you went to one of the big global retained firms. Korn Ferry, Russell Reynolds, Spencer Stewart, and Heidrick are the 4 that have Minneapolis offices. Heidrick and Struggles, didn't mean to use only part of their name.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
One more question. Neil, go ahead.
Hi, David.
Hello, Neil.
I'd be interested to hear your comments on age in the hiring process. I recently came out of retirement at 63 and got hired for a county job. And I got to be honest with you, I was initially reluctant to even apply because of my age. And lo and behold, I got offered the position. So I just want to hear what you're seeing out there in the field nowadays.
Great. So I'm going to answer in a few different ways. The first, I'm going to start with a question, Neil. And that question is, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? And I ask that because the way you present is based on energy. It isn't based on chronology. So that's number one. That's my first answer.
Uh-huh.
Number two, in your question, you use the word, I just came out of retirement. So you just told me something you probably didn't want to tell me. So if I have a propensity to discriminate, you used a word that's a trigger. Number three, most of my clients are small to medium and actually want someone that is older because they want someone who's unflappable. They want someone who can come in and deal with whatever comes to them. And age brings wisdom to most of my clients.
Yep.
So now, I don't believe anybody at 3M or Cargill wake up and say, let's discriminate. I do not believe that human exists. However, their hiring model is primarily based on going to college campuses and bringing people up. They rarely, comparatively, go to the outside for a senior level position because they've got succession planning programs in departments of people that can move up. My clients have won something. They don't commonly have someone who will be the next in line. They want someone who can come in, has experience, can hit the ground running, and is unflappable. So, I don't know, you didn't answer the first question, nor do I need you to. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? Don't ever use the R word again. And the county made a good decision.
Great. Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure thing.
You know, David, I would add to that when you say hiring unflappable talent, you're looking at a lot of veterans, right? So you've hit your target market with
There
this
you go.
group.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
if they're speaking to their strengths, you have a plethora of people to choose from here.
Katie, that is a brilliant observation.
Love it.
That's why we invited Katie. She's brilliant.
You know, it's interesting.
Well, thank you, Renee. Likes
there you
is
go.
like.
I will tell you, I am 68. My wife is 66 and is a retired firefighter. And she is truly unflappable.
Well,
And my youngest son is a police officer, and he's also a captain in the Army Reserves right now. And he is also unflappable. So,
Yeah.
yes. Katie, you're brilliant. Just take it.
Amen.
That's why I like
Right.
working with this group, right? It's
There you go.
like the talent in here is phenomenal.
All right. Thank you, David. We so appreciate your time.
Honored to be here. Thank you. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all live
Yeah.
on the 26th.